Lyn Jarvis, contributing editor for Across the Fence, and today on our tour to Italy, I'm joined by WCAX-TV's Sharon Meyer. And Sharon, I think our viewers are in for a real treat today because everyone who's been here says Italy is one of their very favorite places to visit, and I'm excited to get started.
So am I. Now we're going to be visiting some of the more well-known places like Venice and Florence, but knowing Lyn's sense of adventure, I'm sure we're going to find some interesting places on the road less traveled.
We'll find out soon enough, and I think I can hear someone playing the accordion.
Well, I'm sure you've probably guessed we're beginning our adventure in Venice. It's sometimes called the floating city as it stretches across 117 small islands with 177 canals. It's among the most important tourist destinations of the world with an average of 50,000 visitors a day. And with no cars and buses here, it's a different world where good walking shoes are a must. Even though crowded with people, it's a relief to be away from the congestion and noise of busy streets and highways. Then how do people get around? By boat and barge that move through the many canals 24 hours a day. And certainly it made map reading a whole new experience trying to figure out the maze of waterways. My husband Rainey and Marco, the video editor for our show today, soon got the gist of it and kept us on track. The origins of Venice go back almost 2,000 years when men fished the marshy lagoons around the small islands. By the 13th century, it was the most prosperous city in all of Europe, because of its location and more than 3,000 ships, allowed it to dominate the Mediterranean commerce. To keep up with the rapid expansion, early engineers devised a unique plan to accommodate the influx of people. The buildings of Venice are constructed on closely spaced wood poles brought in from the mainland. Underwater, the wood does not decay and becomes as tough as steel, and many of the original poles are still intact after centuries of submersion. Venice is home to some of the world's most renowned pieces of architecture and landmarks that have ever been built. Among them is St. Mark's Basilica, an enormous medieval church adorned with 5 domes consecrated in 1094. It is among the world's best-known examples of Byzantine architecture. The basilica overlooks one of the most beautiful squares in all of northern Italy, St. Mark's Square. Here, thousands of civil and religious ceremonies have taken place, and where we invested in the most expensive ice cream dessert ever, but it tasted so good in the shadows of this historic building. Besides being crowded with people and many great examples of architecture, St. Mark's Square is filled with pigeons. Although they cause damage to the delicate mosaics and statues, tourists, including yours truly, enjoy feeding them. Before leaving St. Mark's Square, there are more things to see. This is the Campanile, or Bell Tower, and at 323 feet, it's one of the city's most recognizable landmarks. In the Piazzetta, or Little Plaza, is this tall granite column, and at the top is a winged lion, the symbol of St. Mark, the patron saint of Venice. Early government was similar to that of ancient Rome, with elected officials led by the Doge, who lived in this palace that adjoins the basilica. Water taxis are everywhere in Venice. You just have to know which one to take. We're headed for Murano, famous for glass making. In 1921, all the glassmakers were forced to leave Venice due to the risk of fire, and they found Murano an ideal location. The glassmakers are renowned for the high quality and beauty of their creations. And they developed and refined many unique techniques, including enameled and multicolored glass. Artisans still employ glass-making skills passed down through the generations. After browsing through the many shops, we liked this place best and went inside. We were greeted by Diego Vidal, who's been a glassmaker since childhood. The firing oven averages 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit, and we could feel the heat across the room. While red hot, he began to twist and twirl the molten glass. Working fast before it cooled, we wondered what Diego was creating. I was amazed he was making a horse. Through some sort of mental telepathy, he must have known I liked horses. And there, in about 5 minutes, he'd created this intricate glass horse. We were impressed. Just see how beautiful his creation looks in the showroom shelf in the afternoon sun. Enjoying a gondola ride through the quaint canals of Venice is an experience that cannot be replicated anywhere else. Climb aboard with us and enjoy the ride.
Oh, c'è bello lungomare, com'è bella ancora. Vicina allo mercato se venuton, tutte quante sciamangon, sciamancina qua, sciamancina là, c'era maci, sciamancina là.
We have arrived in Florence, the capital city of the Italian region of Tuscany. It is regarded as one of the most beautiful cities in the world. You can see it spread out in the valley behind me. The impact of its artistic, historic, and cultural heritage is legendary, and many consider it the art capital of Italy. We just happened to arrive here on June 2nd, Independence Day in Italia. Everyone was in a festive mood, and these street performers got us off to a good start. Florence was the most important city in Europe from the 14th to the 16th century due to the Medici family, who transformed it into the cradle of the Renaissance. For a while, it was the capital city of Italy, and Florence was modernized with wider streets. But nowadays, there never seems to be enough room for all the tourists. During World War II, the city was heavily damaged by bombs, and all the bridges were destroyed except for Ponte Vecchio, many claiming it was considered too beautiful to be bombed and spared by orders from Hitler himself. We had heard a lot about Ponte Vecchio that crosses the river Arno, and we enjoyed our walk across this historic bridge. Built in 1345, it's now a mecca for those with fat wallets in search of the finest gold from around the world. Without a doubt, the best-known site in Florence is the domed cathedral known as Duomo, designed by Filippo Brunelleschi. The dome, 600 years after its completion, is still the largest ever built of brick and mortar, using some 4 million bricks. Standing next to the Duomo is the Campanile, or bell tower, that took 25 years to complete, with a colorful facade of pink and white Tuscan marble. A huge bust of Brunelleschi now sits outside the Duomo, looking thoughtfully up towards his greatest accomplishment. Not far from the Duomo is the Galleria dell'Accademia, the home of Michelangelo's biblical hero David, the slayer of Goliath, and we joined the long line to go inside. About 45 minutes later, we entered the gallery, and there he was, a breathtaking sight. It took young Michelangelo 2 years to create David from a block of leftover marble found on a nearby mountain. Because of David's biblical fame, the statue came to symbolize the defiance of Florence against the powerful Medici family. The eyes of David, with their warning glare, were turned towards Rome. For over 300 years, David stood in the Plaza della Signoria in defiance of Roman authority. As power struggles faded in 1873, it was decided to move David inside to his present location. It took 4 days to move the 17-foot-tall, 6-ton statue a half-mile. While traveling, friendships often develop, and 4 months ago, while in Antarctica, I met Francesco Sirignoni from Milan, Italy. It's not far from Florence, so he, along with his niece Letizia, joined us for the day. They were most appreciative of my gift of Vermont maple syrup, and after a good visit, sightseeing was next on the agenda. Our first stop was St. Minius on the mountain. Standing atop one of the highest points in the city, the church dates from 1013 and is run by the Alavitan monks. Inside is an ancient Romanesque pulpit adorned with elaborate mosaics depicting scenes that were painted 1,000 years ago. It's hard to grasp just how old things are over here. After our tour, Francesco entertained us with stories about life in Italy and his career in the insurance business. By now, it was time for lunch, and we were treated to a real Italian feast at Trattoria Omero, like the Homer of the Iliad. It was a beautiful place with a spectacular view of the Tuscan countryside with its olive trees and vineyards.
Today we are dining in a typical Italian restaurant in Florence with a very beautiful view, a very beautiful menu. It's very special because you and me must eat everything they have. The restaurant is a very famous name, Omero. And so we can eat everything. The antipasto, before pasto, first course, second course, named also main course, sweet, good wine, and good liquor. Because there are many, many things to eat, it is necessary to eat everything, but a little bit each. So we can eat everything, and then we are very, very, very well.
Ching ching.
Ching ching.
Our day with Francesco and Lutetia ended at Boboli Gardens, an open-air museum dating from Roman antiquity with beautiful architecture, landscape designs, and marble stairs that provide a spectacular view of Pitti Palace, now a public art gallery housing silver, porcelain, and paintings by such artists as Raphael, Titian, and Peter Paul Rubens. We decided we needed a break from the crowds of Florence and headed for the country. On the road to San Gimignano, we got our first glimpse of the small medieval hill town known for its many towers. The wealthy families who lived here built these tower houses as symbols of wealth and power, and for secure lodging from invaders who constantly ransacked their wealthy village. Walking through the narrow streets is like stepping back into the Middle Ages and getting a taste of what San Gimignano must have been like hundreds of years ago. The heart of town is Piazza della Cisterna. Once the town water supply, it is now a popular gathering place for tourists. Sharon and I found another place more to our taste, Plure Premiata, one of the best gelato makers in Italy, boasting many awards for their sweet treat. I was partial to the creamy sweet cherry, while Sharon favored the tangy lemon. From the highest point in San Gimignano, we got this spectacular view of the vineyards in the valley below. And from these vines comes the famous Vernaccia, considered one of the finest of Italian white wines. And at a nearby winery, Poggio Amarelli, we learned how the wine is made from owner Marco Mazzarini.
Only in the harvest, I have the machine for divide the stem from the berry. Divide. The stem, after putting the vineyard, another time, fertilizer. And the berry, crush, come in the cellar for fermentation. You understand? Follow me, please.
He produces some 150,000 bottles of wine a year, and for you connoisseurs, some of his blends are in the Super Tuscan category, a name invented by Americans for the most expensive Italian wines that sell for several $100s a bottle. And what better way to wrap up our visit to the Italian wine country than with a toast to all you loyal Across the Fence viewers. And no, this is not the Super Tuscan blend. Sharon, I can see why people come to Italy, enjoy the country so much. It's a beautiful place, isn't it?
Yes, there's so much history here. The museums are amazing, the food is delicious, and the people are wonderful.
And don't forget that Italian wine. And if you enjoyed what you saw today, Sharon and I'll be back tomorrow as we make our way to Rome in the Isle of Capri. For Across the Fence, I'm Lyn Jarvis, and from Sharon and me,
Thanks for watching.